on, Danny.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Danny Kadota Show. We've got a couple special guests, and I got a real special one here. Just so happens he's going fishing tonight. I caught him outside. Don't feel sorry for him. He's going tuna fishing once he leaves his office. But Don Spencer, old friend. We're just reminiscing about the days of Irvine Lake when we used to go out there all the time. When Donnie was the manager. And anytime anything special was coming on, these guys, you and Dave Noyes, all you guys would give us heads up. And I can't remember having such a great time at a local lake. I miss that place so bad. It was a great place to tune up. By the time we're dialed up with your mini jigs there, you go up in the Sierras, it was a piece of cake.
Oh, it was a lot of fun, Danny.
Oh my God, Donnie.
Sure is good to see you again too.
Oh no, it was awesome seeing you out here. He's out. He's going. Don't feel sorry for him, folks. He's going tuna fishing. Okay, and I'm going to be here. So yeah, no, but he's a great fisherman. But when you see a great fisherman that do the mini jigging and trout and the whole span, bass fishing, whole typical southern, we're all like that, right? We're all identical when it comes to that.
We had some good times there. That as we were speaking a little bit earlier, that had the best of both worlds. Had giant trout in it. It had big catfish in it, and the bass fishing was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
You summer evenings there, you can go out there and catch a 20-pound bag on doing just about anything you like to do. Crankbait, spinnerbait.
Way back, and you remember when they even did the night bass fishing years and years ago?
Yes, sir.
There were some funny stories. I got to tell you this one, Donnie. Taka went out with his best friend, and Russ Snow, and they're sitting in a little rental boat, and they're down toward the dam, on the west shoreline there, and they're just whacking the bass, and Bill wasn't, it was Bill Todd. It wasn't a real bass fishing, but he was, his best friend all through high school and everything else. So anyway, Taka's whacking him because, of course, we were already bass fishing, but Bill was new to it. And it was a full moon, so it was kind of bright. And it just so happened that Taka's looking over. He sees, Bill doesn't know he's bit. The fish jumps. By the time Bill figured it out, he swings, and this bass hits him in his hat, right in his forehead. And it ruined Taka for the rest of the night. He couldn't stop. Every time he looked at Bill, he just cracked up. Couldn't even fish. He was so messed up. But, you talk about fun times. I don't think we had better times than we did down there.
It was phenomenal nighttime, evening time bites, topwater, buzzbait, frogs, whatever you like. But there's a good jig bait lake and a good swim bait lake. And we used to catch some phenomenal bass out of there. That lake had more 6 to 8 pound fish than any other lake around that we used to fish. I grew up there, like I said, between 13 and 34, the years that I worked there. And there was no other lake in southern Orange County that was kept more of a secret than that. It was a phenomenal bass fishing lake.
Yes, it was.
And it's known for more big trout because of Doug Elliott and Bill Andrews, but that lake had some giant bass. I think Whitney had the lake record there that was like 14 pounds.
That is huge.
That
is huge.
That's a big fish for a city suburban trout lake, for sure.
It had everything. I remember taking my grandma there. I took my grandma there, and we limited out on trout, right? So we went to the west shoreline, and we had to get off to go run up to the outhouse, right? So now I'm switching over, putting a mini jig on. I throw it out there, and my grandma comes back down. Hits the water, and boom, crappie like this. And I would just cast, and she'd wind, one on every cast. She was just in heaven. So it was great. And she was already probably pushing in her 90s. But yeah, you couldn't find a better place to fish.
No, it's so relaxing. And it's a great place to take your family.
Exactly. Have breakfast there, talk with all the guys. There's nothing like it. I miss that place.
Oh, gosh.
I miss that place.
If we could have it back today, can you imagine how big the fish are now? Have you seen it? When's the last time you actually seen it?
I saw it a couple years ago. It was super low, and they were still stocked a little bit. And I took one of my grandkids. I was kind of hooking a hand, and they said, "Well, here." They said, "Well, technically, you have to fish." I said, "Well, can I just?" I think Augie was like 6 or 7. He says, "No, you couldn't." So we let him catch his limit, and then we took off. Because they didn't want me. I didn't want to kill any other fish. So I said, forget it. That's good.
But there's some big fish being caught last October from the bank from this guy that fishes. He fishes for catfish, but he's catching these sturgeon, 150-pound sturgeon.
Holdovers from years ago?
Yes. And to this date, his biggest catfish is like 69 pounds from the West Shore. Now, since the rain came back up, they can't walk down there. They're limited to a small section right by the ramp to the office.
Yeah.
And they can't explore down there. The old road had washed out going out to Trout Island. But there's still phenomenal fishing. The bass are bigger. The crappie are bigger. I was down there 2 years ago catching 2.5 pound crappie. And it was just within walking distance. This is where you can't ride your bike, and there's only small little areas that you can walk down to.
Right.
But anybody in Orange County that grew up bass fishing knew of that place as a good. It's one of the only places too in the evenings that you could go down there. Summertime's evening and be open till as late as 12, 1. It used to be open till 2 o'clock. Then it went to like around 12 or 1 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah.
And offered daytime fishing and nighttime fishing, best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Giant catfish, big trout. I held that record on the rainbow trout for, I think it might still be one of the biggest fish out of there. 20 pounds, 8 ounces caught on a white spinnerbait fishing for bass.
Oh, man.
It wasn't some of the biggest trout me and Wendy, we had a 60-pound limit there on crankbaits, mini jigs, fishing over in Sierra Cove. Wendy could tell you that next time you talk to Wendy.
That lake was just, it was phenomenal.
It's unbelievable. Where you get we had 17-pound, 18-pound rainbows in there. I think our smallest fish was like, I want to say like 10 pounds, for rainbows.
Where are you going to get that?
Where are you going to get that?
Nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
No.
We did the same thing. We hooked one, I think I just told you a little while ago, we're talking, and on a Rapala, we're trolling, my daughter with me, and she's holding it. I'm thinking, okay, come on, Alexa, put some pressure on it. It's just peeling out. And I go, okay, this is a different fish. And it spooled us. And it was at the corner of Trout Island, okay? A week later, Greg Stotesbury gets that 20-something pound, right?
I think that's the biggest one. That's 23 pounds.
Yeah,
that's the biggest one.
So Greg got it, and I called him. I said, you didn't hook it around Trout Island? He goes, yes, I did. I said, it's funny because we got spooled. It was about a week and a half before that. It was unbelievable. I couldn't even get the little.
I sure hope they do something about that.
But that was absolutely the best.
That is the
best fishing we've ever had, and it was so close for everybody. You just couldn't beat it.
Do you ever drive by there and just take a look at that place and see that they someday may reopen it again?
I wish they would. I took one of my grandkids there, and like I was telling you, we went in there and we're whacking these fish, and I'm handing them everything. Well, he's little. And finally, a guy comes by and says, well, you're done. I says, well, I'm just, it's for my grandson. He says, no, you can only do 5 whether you hook them or not. So I said, okay, that's fine. So we left, but no, that's fine. I get it.
The park and recreation.
I don't need it, but yeah.
The park and recreation took that over, and it's not the same as the family that you once knew. And
right.
With Danielle, we had Jimmy, we had Whitney on the dock, Santiago on the dock, myself working the dock, and then after I was done closing the lake, I'd guide out there. Danny, we still have a great relationship with Danny Jackson that does that.
All the filming and stuff.
Yeah, so and Sergio, those guys, so we still talk to this day.
God. Yeah, that was to me. It was my very favorite place to go because it was close. It was just fun. We'd always have breakfast. I mean, it had everything. It was so. Just unbelievable.
I got a story for you. You just gave me a story. I'll give you one with Wendy. Okay. I met Wendy. I'm at Trout Island on the shore catching fish, and I'm looking down. I go, this girl can fish. She's knocking the heck out of these trout, and nonstop. And she'll tell you the truth. I may not tell you word for word. It's been a long time. I go over there and introduce myself to her, and she introduced herself. She had. She's been fishing there for a while, and she's knocking the piss out of them on, I think, Castmasters or something like that. So I got to go over and introduce myself, and we've had a wonderful relationship for years after that, freshwater, saltwater. She was my bass fishing tournament at Paris on the WON Bass Circuit for a while.
I remember that.
And she still fishes hardcore. She's more into saltwater. But I think a couple of years ago we took her to Paris and had a great time. But I met her on Trout Island. She was showing the boys how to fish the trout. And that's how I walked up there and introduced myself, and we've become good friends ever since then.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, she could fish.
Oh, yeah.
She could fish.
Listen, I got to tell you, Russ Iser was my sea daddy. I mean, he and I were very close. I was there when he was playing with, even before Spectras, you know. What the heck? Why am I drawing a blank? The other material that's very abrasive, Kevlar. He gave me that, and I was cutting my hand up as Russ isn't cutting it, you know. Then he changed it over to the 3 and 4 carry, real crude Spectras. So from day one, I was with Russ. Well, you know, when Russ passed too, he had the vision. And think about how Spectras changed fishing around the world. He had that vision. People were slamming him, and I know all the guys that slammed him, so they got to be careful around me because I'm very defensive of them, you know, and Iserline. But, you know, having Wendy run the place, there's nobody better. She's got the fishing experience, whether it's saltwater, bass, trout, you know. But it came from her. A lot of it's Irvine. A lot of it's all. That's where we tuned up, man. I'd always go there before we go to the Sierras. Sierras was a piece of cake. I think they took more talent to get the fish at Irvine, you know.
I've met a lot of people there, good people over the years, and she's one of them. You know, we've known each other for, you know, going on 40 years, 30, good 35 to 40 years. We met each other fishing, and I still to this day have a lot of friends from that lake, whether it's guiding or working there. I've met a lot of people, and then you know, over the years that they've had all the different kinds of concerts and things like that there in the back, like Genie in the Bottle and things like that back in the day. I still got friends from back in the day, all from that place. But you talk about trout fishing, there wasn't a better lake for mini jig fishing. There wasn't a better bass fishing lake in Southern California. I've caught more bigger limits out of that lake than I did in any Northern California or the local lakes. It had phenomenal fishing.
Yeah.
You know, some of the biggest fish I used to see on beds were, you know, 14, 15, 16 pounds. You know, that lake had it. But the catfishing, unofficially, I think the dam keeper might have had a 90, 95 pounder that we heard about. But we knew there was bigger catfish in there. Our goal was to catch.
Going to triple digits?
Yes. But
I'm sure it had them.
We had plenty of opportunities. Yeah. We had I had a client out there one night, and we had 275 pounds worth of catfish, and they were all blues, and they were all big fish. I think the smallest one could have been 40 pounds plus, and the biggest one, I think the biggest one was close to, like, I want to say, I can't really remember, but I want to say like in the 70s. And this guy thought we have not duplicated that night, but that night was special. He had some big fish, and he wanted to keep coming back. And we never had a night like that, but we've had. And Danny can contest, and some of the other guys can contest, the guys that work there and know some of the best places around that lake at night to fish that deep water on chunks of mackerel the size of your hand, you know, or your fish. But it had to
be pretty much down by the dam. Huh?
Well, most of it was all by the dam and after hours, for sure. There's no question about it. That was no secret.
Yeah.
But there's some places, deep areas that we used to put Christmas trees back in the flats in the deeper holes and the drop-offs. There was a couple of boat wrecks back there that they sunk. And when you knew those areas and you go to fish them, and sometimes there'd be nothing there, but other times you'll get one every single cast.
There was stuff we did at Irvine that people would not believe unless you saw it yourself. I was there in a pontoon, and Marlin, they were just ahead of us right at the entry where the water was flowing in from the creek. You know, so we had a current flow coming this way, but he had it locked up right on the inside corner. I mean, we were whacking them too, but I mean, theirs was so good. One of the guys literally caught a trout on a cigarette butt. I witnessed it. I'm watching because I always like on a bass lake. I always have my glasses. I'm watching on a cigarette butt. That's how good it was. They were goofing around, but I mean, it was so wide open. You know how, after a rain when the water would come in from the Santa Ana, right? It was every cast for those guys. I mean, we were whacking them too, but I mean, theirs was every single cast.
That's from the creek in the back, in the Santiago on the left-hand side where the creek used to come in.
Yeah. Yeah, they had it locked up. They had it straddled, and he was back there. You know, they'd be waving to me, and I go, "Oh, and marlin, you know. But it was
Well,
it was the best fishery around. Period.
It was. It was.
Really was.
And talk about that time where you guys we were trucking all those fish that went over the dam after the water came up.
Hundreds.
Yeah, and they were all there's some big fish back there, and they survived that 50-foot fall or whatever. And then we used to catch them. You guys were back there. A bunch of guys were back behind the dam. They allowed us to go back there, catch those fish, to retrieve them, and take them up in this a horse trough. Right, that was a horse trough. On the dam keeper's
that vehicle, the little, what was that little truck?
Well, we had the company truck, but we had a old trough where the horses used to drink out of, about, I don't know, 6 feet by 3 feet by 2 feet of water, and put all the fish in there, and I'll truck them down that fire break road all the way down to the lake and just keep doing that all day long. It seemed like you guys will catch your fish.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable, wasn't it?
I took my dad. He probably had the best time of his life.
Yeah.
You know, brother Bob Hornshoe, who used to be one of the Bob Marriott's managers. You know, here's a fly guy, got him into bait fishing. I wish I had footage I could blackmail him, you know, but we were nailing him on the bait, but it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I wish we would have had those days back, but unfortunately I don't think we will. But that was my favorite lake. Everybody that you talk to will tell you, if you mention Irvine Lake, they will say that they've either taken their family to or was taken to as a young kid. That's where they were introduced to fishing, and they grew up there. And everybody petitioned when they shut it down. Had everybody that I talked to, or my phone was ringing off the wall for years saying, what can we do to help bring this back? And that's when I think the Orange County Register guy came down, Dan Wagner came down and posted some stuff on the news and brought it back. It's amazing how the power of you get people involved in the news and the reporters, and they brought it back, and it's not what it used to be. But can you imagine if we launched our bass boats out there right now? The bass are bigger, the catfish are bigger, the trout fishing is just the paid putting, the stalker trout. But the sturgeon, evidently, they're bigger. They survive the big blues. They have no problem catching those big blues.
These all have to be like record type.
They gotta
size
be. They
fish.
have to be.
Yeah,
they have to be.
It's unbelievable, unbelievable. Yeah, one of the greatest, fisheries around. Period. But it was just so much fun for all.
Phenomenal
of us.
fishing. Just we keep praying that maybe they have a chance to reopen that lake again.
Yeah, that would be awesome if they could.
Well,
they really would.
That's. I think. Well, it gives us an opportunity to meet people like you. I mean, obviously, I met you through the industry. You took good care of me when we first met with G. Loomis, but since then I worked with Daiwa, a lot of Daiwa guys.
Yeah.
I'm here with one of the Daiwa guys today. But Brian Yamani.
Yeah.
We used to take out the guys come from to do the shows down here in Long Beach. We used to take them out summertime night fishing with buzz baits. They had a time of their life. We couldn't communicate well, but I knew the sign that they were having a good time hooking those big fish. That's a blast. It brings back a lot of memories.
Before we took the Mustang down to San Diego, we were getting into bass fishing a lot. We do the night fishing. They used to have the night fishing there, just fishing the plastic worms. So we go there. Well, Taka takes his best friend, a guy named Bill Todd, right? And it's a full moon, so it's lit up really well. And, Taka's, because he's a good a good fisherman, period, but he's whacking him. And Bill's getting bit every now and then. But all of a sudden, Taka's looking over in the silhouette with the full moon. He could see Bill, he's getting bit like this. And then Bill's not watching, but the fish jumps out of the water, and Bill sets the hook, and this fish comes back and hits him in the head. Hits him right I think it was in the face. Taka couldn't even fish the rest of the night because he couldn't stop laughing. He couldn't hold the rod steady enough because he kept laughing. And that's his best friend, right? So you talk about stories. I mean, here they grew up in Anaheim, long time ago, before Disneyland, right? And here, probably the best story ever was at Irvine Lake that night where Bill set the hook and that bass smacked him in the head. And to this day, we just, that's where, great stories are made and everything. So much came out of Irvine.
We could probably do this all night long.
I know, it's amazing.
Good stories, but good people ran it.
Oh, absolutely.
We used
They
to
were the
have,
best.
company picnics, barbecues,
Yep.
parties. They've had so many. What was good is they knew how to introduce the kids to fishing. They used to do the, fishing game out there. They used
Yep.
to show
Yep.
kids how to tie knots, how to fish the
Yep.
trout. And then they had the trout pond. The trout pond where
Yep.
they can actually go catch some fish.
Well, like we just talked about, where are they going to put both a brown, a brookie, and a rainbow in where the kids, like
Right.
my daughter was probably 6 or 7 when she got all 3 of them. And, and then they had a big ceremony at the Fred Hall show where all the little kids got their awards, and they gave them $100 gift certificate to Bass Pro Shops.
Does she still have that, like a plaque, or?
I don't know if she has that. I don't even know if she has. Well, here's the deal. She got that $100 certificate. They take her out to Bass Pro Shops. She gets a Crossman BB gun. My wife had a fit. What are you going to do? You're going to shoot your eye out?
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, that was via, Irvine Lake and Bass Pro, and it was just such a great place, period, the things that went on there.
I'm sure glad I got a chance to run into you tonight and talk, talk about the
Donnie,
old times.
And here's Todd. You fired up, Todd? You warmed up? All right. Anyway, Donnie, my God, it was good seeing you down here. Go kill those bluefin, man.
I hope so. Thank you.
He's out tonight.
Hey, I get to make a rare appearance on
the game. Oh, hey,
Philip.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to grab your mic there. Okay. That was such a great tribute to Lake Irvine.
Oh,
it makes me want to go.
Just alone with this gentleman here, this, a legend in the bass world fishing industry anyway, man. And another story real quick was that 14-pounder. After watching you guys tear it up, you and Bob over there, I was fishing one day in a rental boat, and I got a 14.8. And some of the advice that you guys gave on double anchoring and crawdad fishing. So thank you, sir, because you're the one that started me off. And I appreciate that. I look up to you.
You're a great fisherman.
I look up to you. I do.
Credit. Yeah.
So,
Donnie, you're the man. Thank you so much. Good to meet you, by the way.
Good to see Mr. Todd Woods.
Yeah,
how you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Somebody was just talking about Irvine today at the shop. They caught a.
Hey, I'm just gonna tell. Go ahead. You guys can go ahead. Todd Woods is going to be here in a second, and he is going to talk about the tournaments he's been in. Danny's going to talk to him, but that was fascinating. I loved it, man.
That's a piece of Southern California history.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to see that done, because it was probably one of the greatest places to introduce kids and and families.
Yeah.
It was such a great family atmosphere. It's clean. It was just well done by Dave Noyes and the Orange County, the Water District, and those guys out there. They're phenomenal.
Can I reemphasize one thing that Donnie said?
Absolutely.
How fortunate we are at Friedman Adventures to have you with us as part of the family, and you do such a great job, and you are such a good human being. Nobody paid me to say any of this.
No. Listen, Phil, I've been blessed being around all the great people, the really big people in the industry that made all the inroads, and it came out of our people here, you know, and I've always taunted everybody in Southern California in general. We don't get the credit for some of the things, the innovations in tackle and methodology, the technology, because of aerospace and our consumers. It's our fishermen. We have the greatest fishermen, and with that, the great minds and the things that are
one of them's coming on the show right now.
And here's Todd Woods. Speaking of which, Todd.
Hey, by the way, everybody, bluefin tuna wide open. It's biting. Freedom's going tonight. El Patron tomorrow night, and they are only taking 10 people, so you can jump on that. And who else is going tonight? The Pride. The Pride is going tonight.
And those fish aren't going anywhere.
Todd is going to talk to you about how you can fish tournaments and so much more.
There you go.
You can talk bluefin. You can talk bass. We can talk it all, Todd, let me tell you. All right, let me get you rigged up here, and then I'll turn you over to Mr. Kadota.
All right.
Hey, Todd.
We need.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Be realistic, Todd. I did bring this,
let me
Todd.
get a handshake.
I did bring this for you. This is one of some of the old.
Yeah, I remember that from last time. I think you had it.
From when we started making our own spinner baits, fishing all cranks, and before we even touched the bait.
Yeah. I was loving listening to you guys talk about Irvine. I worked today, and a guy I guess there's some guys still fishing there right now.
Yeah,
catching them.
I've taken my grandkids over there. It was always one of the best places to bring kids, and back in those days when they had the restaurant, we'd go in there to have breakfast, and it was so kickback, but it just the atmosphere with the way it was done with Dave Noyes and all the entire crew and staff that they had there, the Marlon Mees, the Donnies, I mean, you name them. I mean, just phenomenal people. I miss that. Because it was a family type deal.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I miss a lot of those sitting down and just listening. I've been here a couple times in the last month, and just sitting there listening to the guys talk. It's just awesome. I love it.
It's got so much history. Like I said, it's just great. And the guys like I said, I miss that place so bad because just tuning up, I was able, even in the off season, to keep my finger on the bass fishing, Although when I got down there, I fished mainly straight artificials, like the way I started out fishing back in high school. But God, what a great place!
What was your favorite artificial bait that you felt like, if they told you, we'd give you $1 million, you had to throw one bait, what would that bait be?
At any lake?
Yeah, at any lake.
I would probably throw a jig, although my biggest, and actually one of the only artificials I got was on a crank plug. It was on a DB3 Tennessee shad, right? And Todd, I got to tell you, if it weren't for, I don't even remember a tournament guy named Colin Waters. He's an Englishman, and he had a very strong English accent. He had a little limey friend with him too.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have got the crankfish. We were back at Castaic, and I was by myself, anchored up back at Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there throwing crawdads. Nothing. The crawdads, usually if there's a fish there, they'll jump around. I mean, that's the key. They will tell you if there's a fish. They weren't even doing that. Like it was dead. I went, what the heck? So I threw a mudsucker out there, and nothing. So anyway, Colin is on the trolling boat. He had another little Englishman friend with him. And they're coming around, they're coming real close, and he says, you mind if I cast over here? I said, no, of course not. I'm throwing live baits.
Yeah.
You're throwing cranks. He was throwing a pole 400 in a shad color, right?
Yeah.
And so he sticks a fish. He gets one about 6. I go, I'll be doggone. So I put on the mudsucker. I figure, okay, I'm going to have something that swims, goes down. But usually if there's a fish there, it's like a sardine.
Yeah, they get a little jittery.
They get jittery and they start moving faster. They get panicky, right?
Yeah.
Well, nothing. I go, what the heck? So I changed the bait again, fired up, nothing. Meanwhile, he sticks another fish.
No.
Another one about 5 pounds. And I go, I'll be doggone. And I got 2 rods in my. This is when I fish in my little aluminum boat by myself. One with 10 and one with 12. So. And they're all for fishing small crawdads and mudsuckers. So I go, finally I go, what the heck? So I have a brand new DB3 Tennessee shad, a Bagley that I used to use when I was in high school. I mean, that's when I was fishing Kachuma. I used to make my own spinner baits and jigs and stuff like that. But we used a lot of Bagleys, BB3s, DB3s. And
I threw the honeybee.
The honeybee? No.
Yeah, that was the smallest one they made. It was a very, very small bait.
Inch and a half, 2 inch?
It was about 3 inches. Yeah. And it was the same shape as the DB3, but
just scaled down.
Yeah, and it dove about maybe 7 or 8 feet at the most, and you threw it on a spinning rod. And between myself and my dad, we caught hundreds and hundreds of fish on that bait.
I've always contended, like balsa, the flotation on the balsa was so much more buoyant. It would resist and it would give you more kick in the water.
You know what
because when you use cedar and stuff, it
I was
didn't
gonna
have
say,
the
that's
same.
What Pose. Yeah,
right? Because I use Pose too.
Yeah,
but it didn't have the same kick because the flotation on the balsa wood, made it so it was more resistant, so it would kick side to side more.
I think the Pose, it was denser and it dove down deeper. It seemed like, and it was a deeper. You said the Pose 400, right? Yeah. I used the 400 and 300 a lot back in the day in tournaments.
Oh, absolutely.
My favorite color was that white one with the little silver bars down it, and then the chartreuse and blue one.
All those years I was fishing Kachuma and San Antonio, we were tournament style fishing. We dialed it into basically a shad color into a chartreuse.
Yeah.
And pretty much 90% of my fish, well, because that's what I was throwing most of the time.
Yeah.
But I was more confidence level type colors, But yeah, I mean, so he's sticking these fish in front of me, and I go, what the heck? So finally, I have a brand new DB3 in the package, haven't used it. I open it up, I tie it on my 10-pound. First cast, I backlashed the heck out of that. I had a EX100, a little Shimano back at the time for throwing the light line, right? Mm-hmm. So it was so heavy, it backlashed the heck out of it. So I'm picking it out. So I wind it in.
No.
And I had my buoy sitting out there, and I would go down one side and then the other. And so after the backlash, I wound it in, make a cast, nothing, make another cast, nothing. And I threw one actually right down the middle. And I'm winding, and it just stops. And Colin, he could see the rod doing this. He goes, I think that's a big one. He and his buddy are right next to me. And he says, you want me to net for you? I said, no, I think I'll get it. It was 11.4. And that was my biggest artificial fish.
Wow.
And you know what? I never would have caught that fish if Colin did not stick those fish in front of my face.
Yeah.
I would have never believed I'd pull off of a live bait instead of a crank. So that's a lesson to be learned for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I certainly learned a lot from that myself.
The variety, and I think that's my, in tournament fishing, I think that's my number one weakness. Before you leave, Phil, I want to answer a quick question because I saw it up there, and I don't want to leave that guy hanging.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the number one mistakes that I make as a tournament angler is I try to force feed the fish, with that same bait instead of not trying. Oh, there it is. That Bagley's.
April 3rd,
That was the one.
1984, 11.3. And Phil, I don't know if you can see that from here, but this is the Bagley, Tennessee shad. That's at 11.3.
See what we can do.
That's the story we're just talking about.
Oh, okay, very good.
Yeah, DB3.
But I would have never caught that. And I credit Colin Waters and his partner because I would have never switched off of a live bait to throw a crank, and I would have never caught it. Never caught that fish.
Yeah. Question you wanted to answer?
Yeah, so I noticed one of the guys was asking about Skinner, and he's been struggling at Skinner. And, I used to live in Murrieta, which was just 20 minutes door drive in traffic from my house to Lake Skinner. And I fished it a couple days a week when I was working. And that was a very, very clear water lake, and it's full of bass. The thing about that lake is it varies a lot, and it goes up and down because it's part of the, I don't want to say aqueduct, but it's part of the California water supply, and so they play with the water level a lot. But I would say that probably the easiest, you guys were talking about trout lures, the little mini jigs.
Yeah.
If you're struggling at Lake Skinner, one of the best things you can do is tie on a mini jig and throw out in the clear water, and that's how you catch them there.
I'll be dang.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've had 25-pound bags there with the Alabama rig, but here, that's a tip for you: either a mini jig or a Gary Yamamoto 5-inch thin Cinco with a wacky style, and just throw it out with no weight. And just anywhere, just go down the bank and throw it. You'll catch fish on it. I guarantee it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is so awesome.
Anyway, but
did you ever get a chance to fish Vail back in its day?
I not only did I fish it back in the day, but I also fished it when it was membership. I had a membership to Vail. That was my other lake. And you guys were talking about crappie.
Oh.
That place is loaded with giant crappie.
Okay, you know who Rip Nunnery was?
Yes.
Right? Rip has the all-time BASS record. Well, when he moved from Florida, came back out to California, he settled out in like Norwalk, so he used to go into Wayne's Tackle and save on, but, he was a big bass guy, so I'd run into him all the time. And he would just, when Talk and I started fishing, he would just torque us and put us in different directions. He sent Talk out to Lake Hemet, and all Talk went out there and saw his goldfish and everything else, lost an anchor out there, we're trying to figure it out. And he'd laugh. Well, I caught him one day at Vail, and we just started fishing that place, but it was phenomenal fishing.
Yeah.
And what it was a private lake, right?
Oh, yeah.
And supposedly the lake rules was there's no live bait. So I had the connections with Fishing Game, and I was on the Inland Fisheries Board, right?
Yeah.
So I talked to the guy, say, oh, no. He says, we put in all initial forage fish and stock. He says, technically, Danny, you could use it. He says, just be slick about it. Just be slick about it. So we took our big 747s loaded with cranks and blades and everything. Left all the cranks and everything in the upper trays, emptied out the bottom. Well, we were able to put 5 dozen crawdads in one of them, and in Freddie's tackle box, we had 3 dozen water dogs.
Yeah.
So we go in there for the very first time, and we only have our light bait rods, a 10-pound and a 12-pound. And we were told that you fish straight across from the launch ramps. There's a tree that's sticking out a couple of feet out of the water. He says, just fish around that point. So we get out there, and I dump the boat in, hop in, I drive over there, but there's a bigger tree's like 8 feet out of the water. I'm going, God. I was Taka that gave us the information. I said, yeah, Taka's blind. This thing's like 8 feet. So I meter it, and it was just a stack of fish.
Yeah.
And I go, holy smokes, I spin it around. I straddle it, we anchor. I get one over to my first cast, and then it just got better. It was just ridiculous. But there was so much brush and everything that we were losing some fish in it and everything else, right? And we went up to 12-pound. We didn't have anything heavier than 12. And the other thing we were doing, once we fished 12, we were straightening out the hooks. We were using 92, 158 mustads, which we use for crawdads, but that's with 10-pound and 8-pound.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my partner, Freddie Tqckle, had some 9174 mustads, which was a light tuna. We used to use them for chovies. So fortunately, he had some. So we started hanging them on 12-pound, and it was ridiculous. It was almost every cast.
Yeah, my best story about Vail Lake. So I'm 31 years in the fire service. I was a fireman about 5 years. I was playing softball. We would play, we stayed in shape.
Yeah.
So we were playing a softball game, and I went to, we would play at the high school. I went to catch a ball, and I lost my footing, and my body accelerated. I ended up in a wall, and I broke my right arm in the wall. And the guys that saw it happen, they thought for sure I broke my neck. That's how hard I went in. But anyway, so it break I think it's called the radial head, the edge of the elbow. It's in pretty bad shape. So I was off from work for a couple of months in the springtime with my casting arm. Okay, so it was like the worst possible scenario you could be in, because I thought I couldn't fish, right? Oh yeah, I went to Vail Lake, and I learned how to cast. I taught myself how to cast left-handed, and I could reel like this. And we had we would have 100 fish days throwing crankbaits in the mud, up there. You launch, and then you make a right. There's that flat there on the right. Yeah. We'd have 100 fish days throwing cranking, and I'd do it all casting left hand. So I got to the point where I could cast just as well left-handed as I could right-handed.
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun place. But like I said, the crappie fishing there was phenomenal. In the wintertime, I would take my kids there, and we would troll little crankbaits. Like, when you launch and go to the right, there's a bunch of trees underwater that you can't see. We would troll in the wintertime. Those trees with the crankbait would dive right above the tree, and we were catching 2 and 3 pound crappie. I mean, like every time we made a pass right there. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, one time we caught 90 of them.
That lake was incredible. Lake was that. Todd, this is that day. Our very first day we've ever fished Vail.
Right here, right?
That was it. Now,
look at that.
We actually had, this was 94.9 with those fish.
94.9.
We released bigger fish, so we were well over 100 pounds.
11, 10.9, a 10.9, a 10.5, a 10.
Yeah, but after we had those, we had to release. We released.
Are we looking at these?
We released those. That was the first time we ever. It was by accident we found that spot, because as time went by, all the big bass boats were going by us, and I pull out my glasses and I go, "Oh my God, there's a little stick sticking out 2 feet out of the water." I said, "Freddie," I said, "I think we're supposed to be over there." And we were cracking up because it was unbelievable.
Wow.
Now, we ran out of bait.
Oh.
Okay. And we go back to Taka's. We wait. This is at his tackle shop. We weighed them all up and everything. And I said, I'm going back tomorrow. I'm loading up. I'm loading up all new line. I'm going to take a little, load up, probably fish more 12. But I went back ready for bear.
Yeah.
Crawdads. We go back there. Todd, not one bite.
Oh God, you gotta love
Not one bite.
Yeah.
And and so I'm thinking this is impossible.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So I said, okay, forget it. So we left early, and we go back to Taka's shop, and I had to go fill up my boat and car with gas. And so I pull into the gas station, and I start laughing, and my partner goes, "What are you laughing at?" It says, "Empty the crawdads out, put them in this." So I get the ice chest, and I get the water from the gas station, and I fill the ice chest with water because the day before Taka had to help lift up the ice chest with all these 100-something pounds of bass, right?
Yeah.
So he and mind you, we invited him. So we pull up to the back of his shop. He gets the ice chest. He goes, and I thought he was going to cry. He goes, "Oh my God," because it was well over 100 pounds, right? But it was all water. He didn't know that. So finally, he gets in. We lift it out, and he opens it up, and he calls me an AH. You guys can probably figure that one out.
Oh yeah.
He says UAHs. But it just goes to show you in one day.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable switch. Yeah. But that lake later on, as I learned it, I made 6 consecutive casts for fish over 10. I mean, I probably had the best fishing in my life. I know real big ones.
Yeah.
I did dump. I dumped a couple years after that. Dumped one that was probably pushing 18.
Wow.
And that's when Sandberg. I think it was Sandberg had that 18.
Yeah.
And but it was peaking at that particular time. So they had some big fish. We got a lot of 14s and quite a few 14s there and stuff. But it was just so phenomenal.
And then had you fished like Hemet or any of those other surrounding lakes at all? Not at all.
I didn't. I didn't. I never did because we, so much confidence in that lake. I mean, I could have. I took a friend out that was almost in tears because he wanted a 10-pound bass, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to give you the first cast." I said, "You throw it right there, this tree inside a cove, toward the dam on the left-hand side. There was a little tiny cove and had a tree in the middle, and everybody that fished it kind of remembers that, but it was pretty much guaranteed."
Huh.
Yeah. And he got one, But I mean, it was just unbelievable time and place at that particular time,
When a lot of these lakes, as we know, are really, really tough in the wintertime. I used to fish Vail in the wintertime, and I'd have 50 fish days on throwing a hair jig with a purple super float, on the back of it. Yeah. And that's where I learned how to throw a jig, basically just going out there.
Well, it makes sense.
And they'd be in like 50 feet of water.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember like it was yesterday.
Rip Nunnery, I think we talked about it, right? So he set the all-time BASS record back when he lived in Florida, when he moved out to California. He's showing us pictures of all these big bass. And we're going, Ripper, where'd you get those things? And he used to hang out at Wayne's Tackle in Norwalk and go into Sabon and go to Bob's, go to Prescott's, because that was the bass
Everybody
capital.
went to Bob's.
Right? That was the bass capital too, right? And so, Ripper, what? Come on, he would never tell us. So he sent Taka on a wild goose chase. He went out to Hemet. Taka loses an anchor and everything. Yeah. And Ripper gets a laugh out of it, So I'm on the lake. I'm at Vail one day, and I pull up my glasses, and I go, "Oh, that sneaky guy."
Found it.
So I snuck up on him.
Yeah.
He didn't see me coming. I snuck up. I motored in on the trolling motor, and I go, "Hey, are we at Hemet?" And he could just hear him laughing from I don't know how far away. But we busted him, But we had so much fun. But here, I mean, I think to this day, it's still the all-time largest record in BS. Of course, it was 15 fish back then.
Yeah.
But still, I still.
They got a lot of crazy records now. Yeah. Dean Rojas had a big record for a while for 5 fish. He caught at Toho in Florida. I think it was like 45 pounds or something like that. It was huge. I remember watching that on BASS TV.
Yeah. Oh man.
I mean, that's anytime you catch a more than one 10-pounder. I think I've only caught a couple in my whole life. This is the number that you caught is just incredible.
Yeah, it was. It was a big learning curve though too, Todd. We took our lumps, and there's a lot of things that we learned from that.
Yeah.
And in turn, that helped fish our officials too. I mean,
Yeah.
when we did fish fun tournaments with friends and stuff, you fish the jigs more. You do, there's different things that you implement, but a lot of the methodology came from that. And then, I draw the similarity. Fish in the ocean.
Yeah.
We're throwing the iron. We're throwing the iron. The way it moves in the water. You start looking at the way your natural bait swims and everything. And of course, you want to emulate that too.
Yeah.
So changing the cadence when you're winding, it's not just a straight crank always. A lot of times you get it and then you crank it fast and
Right.
you get that extra kick, and that's boom.
Yeah.
You get nailed. So there's a lot of things, and you know that.
Well, and now it's the swim bait craze, whether
Exactly.
it's a glide bait, which, I throw a glide bait a lot. I don't throw, when I'm fishing tournaments, there's a size that I try to stay with because, 2 pounders, if you're fishing for 10 pounders, you're going to end up going home with nothing in a lot of tournaments. So I'll fish a glide bait, like a Gancraft or, Rapala, or S-Waver, that's that 7-inch size.
Mm-hmm.
And, a 1 pound fish will try and eat that thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
It's crazy. But there's a lake in, I think it's Texas called OH Ivy that they're catching. There's a guy there that's caught like 100 fish over 10 pounds. And he's caught them mostly on an Alabama rig,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When I come down, we fish Casitas a lot, but a lot of my stuff, my bigger fish came out of Castaic. And as I'd come down the hill every day, I'd see a boat down there. And it was Butch.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. Butchie, he's the man.
Yeah, he puts the time in.
He puts more time in than anybody knows. And, back then he was living in Moore Park, so that was a long commute. That was before he moved to Castaic. So you talk about dedication. And I know him as a friend, too.
Yeah.
He's just a great fisherman, period. I don't care whether you put a tuna rod in his hand or a bass rod. He's just a great fisherman. He's got that mentality. So one time we did a Castaic tournament. Butch and I team up, and I think we did one there and one at Casitas. So let's team up together.
Yeah.
And we're going to, we should do a number, right? Wrong. We stunk.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you
doing it.
what we do during the day.
Yeah.
And where and how you fish at night, we had no clue. I mean, I don't think there's a better fisherman during the day. I mean, he's the man. He's the goat.
I delivered Butch the boat that he has right now. I delivered it to him, and I delivered it to him at Lake Pyramid, which I hadn't been there in probably over 20 years.
Yeah.
Because I work at English Marine, 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And so I drove it to him, and I gave him a full tour of the boat, showed him around the boat. We went on the water. He showed me and I didn't even ask him. You talk about a great guy.
Oh,
I didn't even ask him. He showed me his 5 favorite spots. And of course he's got a memory like you. Oh, I caught a 10 here. I caught a this here. I caught a that there. And of course I'm trying to lock it in my memory. But yeah, he's a really, really good guy.
There's nobody more dedicated. Especially with the state of California now implementing all these rules, and you can't transfer a boat from here to here. He's got 4 boats sitting at 4 different lakes because you can't haul them out and put them back in. How much commitment and dedication is that?
Right.
I don't think there's anybody in the country that has that.
Yeah.
So he's definitely earned, in my mind,
right.
The reputation as the GOAT. He is the GOAT.
Yeah. And
because his homework, his
absolutely.
dedication, it's just and it's not just that. It's any type of fishing. I remember when he started tuna fishing. Yeah. He doesn't just start. He goes big, but he's already dialed in. He's fishing with the best guys. He's fishing with Corky Yokoi and Taka and Jimmy Lou. I mean, you're fishing with all the big long-range, big guns anyway.
Yeah.
But he goes in. He steps in. I think one of his first strips, they got a 300.
Wow.
That's not luck.
Yeah.
Todd, right? No, it's just not luck. He's a great fisherman.
Yeah. And here's another non-fish story when I was with him. So, like you said, he's well known. Everybody knows him. So there's people there saying hi to him.
Yeah.
And there was a guy there with, I guess he raises, I don't know if you call it raises, but he has a honey farm where he makes his own honey and sells his own honey.
Mm-hmm.
and it's expensive. You know, you can go online and buy it. You know, not all honey is just it was expensive honey. And he said, "Oh, hey, Butch, how's it going? You know, blah, 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 great." He goes, "Hey, let me give you one of my bottles of honey." You know, and he gave him a bottle of honey, and Butch says, "Hey, do you have another jar?" He says, "Yeah." He goes, "Give him one." And he didn't even know me from Adam. You know,
That's Butch.
but that's the kind of guy. You know, I
He
was
is.
like,
They
wow.
do not get any better than Butch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to call him up. Maybe we'll get everybody down there. You know,
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. No,
he's a good
he's
dude.
earned that reputation as a goat in my mind.
Yeah.
The dedication. It's not just in bass fishing. To go into the other sports, you know,
Yeah.
the long range and go in and catch 300 your fish, has nothing to do with luck.
No.
Has to do with doing your due diligence, your homework.
Putting your time in.
Yeah, putting your time in. you
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
pretty awesome. We've been blessed.
Oh,
being
for
around some
sure.
great people.
It's
Todd.
yeah,
I'm-
yeah, and I
you
think
say,
it's just going to continue as long as we're alive.
my God, you get to work with Rick. Grover
Yep.
took care of me with my
Yeah.
boats. He built exactly what I wanted. I had with that one live well that went clean across all the way across.
Yeah, for
you
big
know,
fish.
for the big fish, and
Yeah.
so nobody better than Rick. And then
Yeah.
congratulations, Kyle just knocked a tournament off, huh?
The U.S. Open. Yeah, he.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I've known
and-
him as a little kid.
And there's another guy
That's awesome.
that
That
is
so. Congratulations,
so
Kyle.
humble. I mean, he's another one. He's probably. It's so funny talking to him because I interviewed him. I have a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and it's Todd Woods Fishing, and I actually interviewed him on my channel, and you could watch. It's not very long. It's short of how he caught his fish at the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
But I had to coach him to get him to talk about him, to talk about himself, because he's a very humble guy. He loves talking about other people. As soon as I mentioned, hey, so you have a family, his whole he just lit up. Loved talking about his kids and his family and everything. He's a very, very humble guy.
That's so awesome.
And of course he talks about his dad. He loves his dad. They used to fish team tournaments many moons ago.
And Rick took care. I mean, like I said, he built special things on the boat for me that nobody else had.
Yeah.
It was just, but that's Rick. It was a chip off the old block.
Yeah.
You can't beat those guys.
No, but he's a natural. And of course, Rick just got back from Peacock.
He's down there he just got down there with Steve. I was talking to him we were talking to those guys last week.
Is that what I said?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Rick was down there with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Cool. I guess Rick was saying that one of the guys was the Dallas Cowboys surgeon that was with him, and he was telling stories about, I guess, operating on Dak Prescott's thumb, and the Cowboys and whatnot. I was like, that's got to be pretty. That's pretty stories,
awesome. Yeah.
Of course, Rick hates the Cowboys, but you've heard it here first.
Well, you know why? He used to outfit all the Rams, with Brooks and all those guys. We'd meet up at Castaic. There's that old restaurant that was right off of Castaic, not Parker, but Lake Hughes. And they tore it down, but all the Rams would meet there on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we got to know a lot of those guys back in those days too. So it was a fun deal.
Was it a breakfast spot?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when we had club tournaments, we would stop there to have breakfast. Yeah, I wish I could remember the name of that place.
I can't remember it either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember that.
They used to all hang out there on Tuesday. That was their day off.
Yeah.
Like they said, Brooks and all those guys would all go in there. Nolan Cromwell. I fished with Nolan. Yeah.
So Nolan lives in Canyon Lake.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's such a great guy too.
Yeah, he is. He's tight with Rick. He's real tight with Rick.
Wow.
Also,
you know what?
Yeah, I see him every once in a while.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good dude. That's funny. It's a small world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another guy, when I used to work in the fire department, a guy by the name of Mike Hewitt, his dad was the equipment manager of the Rams back in the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, I sure was.
Through our sport, Todd, we've been blessed with so much. When I was with G. Loomis too, it was the same deal. We had Kevin Fagan, Harrisport, and these guys that were on all those 49er teams with Jerry Rice and Montana and those guys. Well, we fished with them, and I got pictures of Kevin in here too. With his big fish, and he came close, but that's what I always loved about documenting stuff.
Yeah,
is getting the pictures.
Yeah, no, you got some great ones in there for sure.
This one's kind of a funny deal, but this is Bob Sarver. He was the editor of Peterson's Fishing Magazine. So we bring in Steve Schneider, who was
Cool.
Daryl Lawrence's right-hand man for publicity.
Yeah.
And he's straight-laced, just a great guy, Steve Schneider. So Starb and I decided to dress like Hare Krishnas at LAX.
That was at the
That's
airport,
it.
huh?
That's
That's hilarious.
He sees
Oh, I got to show that.
Yeah.
Steve Schneider, sees Sarber and I, turns around, goes the other way, and we're like, sir, can you spare a nickel? You know? So you talk about having fun in this industry, folks. It's more than just being on the boat, just more than making that cast. But yeah, we spent some time really messing with some great friends. But he was Daryl Lawrence's right-hand guy.
Yeah.
So he did all the stories. I was promoting the new LMS units and stuff. But
Speaking of Lawrence, I was told that Don Ivino's not doing great. Did you know anything about
no,
that?
I haven't. No, and I hadn't seen Don in years.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I think somebody came by the shop or something saying he was having it rough.
Oh,
So
no.
send out
Yeah,
a
there's
prayer
an
to Don.
icon.
Yeah.
He was one of the
he was
early
a Lawrence
T,
guy.
and
Yeah. Big time.
So there's Steve Schneider right there, Phil. There's Schneider, and this is the photo shoot we did for this new unit. And where is that thing?
Look at your Lawrence on there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's the ad I did for him. But there was the new LMSs and stuff. But, you know.
I had one of those.
Yeah. See, working in this industry, I remember Daryl called me one time, and we were he had a press conference going down in New Orleans. It was at a BASS deal. And at the time, Humminbird was bringing out, they called it a three-dimensional graph, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, but
No.
So I got briefed on it. And because I had the background in sonar, the scanning sonar, Daryl wanted me to do the press conference in New Orleans. And so I did. What it was he had a lawsuit going against Humminbird because it wasn't a true scanning deal. It implemented 3 transducers at 60 degrees. So you had 60, 60, and 60.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had the span. The problem is at the very outside range of each one of those bands is the weakest signal. Okay, so what happened was when they exposed that, and I questioned them in the press conference, they had 2 40-foot trees in these 2 sectors, and it didn't register.
Oh, wow.
40-foot tree.
Yeah.
So they ended up having them, they had the lawsuit, and they won the suit because it was not accurate. You know, here the center beam's really true, and you get your targets, but when you get off to the outside fringes at the end of 60 degrees, where it links up with the other 60 degrees, you're missing a 40-foot tree. Yeah. So it was pretty much a farce at that point. So he was able to, get that off the market until they relinquished it. And I mean, now, the live scan stuff.
Yeah, the forward-facing sonar. Yeah. I mean, that's what everybody's talking about right now. It's it seems like it's, depending on who you talk to, for me, a tournament angler, I'm all for change, and change is good. It seems like every single thing that you can probably think back to your day, to the spinnerbait, to the chatterbait, to the Cinco, and then to the Alabama rig, that's going to kill fishing. Well, somehow the little bass with their little pea brains, they figure out how to get around that stuff. Yeah, and I have yet to, I don't know a lake of today that is completely drained out because it's ate too many spinnerbaits or Cincos, or crawdads for that matter.
That's right. That's right. People think it was automatic that we do that, but it had more to do with the approach, which way the current was going. Well, half the guys don't even know there's current.
Yeah.
To assess it and to set up on the spots. And we were blessed to have the knowledge of the current from running ocean boats. Yeah. And then I was also very fortunate to be linked up with George Mayo, who was the first one to use a scanning sonar. So you figure in 1981, we already had a mindset where my mind's already visualizing what I'm seeing going this way. Yeah. Rather than straight up and down. So we were blessed being around the right people that had that technology, mindset, and so we were the innovators.
I still have to tell myself when I'm scanning something, it's hard to teach your brain that you're seeing something that's already been seen by the boat, in the bass world, not in your world where, you're scanning forward. You go, okay, the guy says, hey, we got some marks. We're going to flip you. For me, it's like I'm scanning, and then the boat, the transducer's behind me. So it's picking up everything as I'm driving away. It's almost like it's going away. So if I see something like a tree or a rock, whatever, I got to go back or mark it. And what's nice about forward-facing sonar is everything is live. It's you can watch your bait go down. You can watch the fish swim up and eat your bait. You still have to go. And some guys can distinguish the size of the fish, whether it's a carp, whether it's a catfish, whether it's a crappie, trout. They can tell what's what. And I'm not there yet, and I've had it for a couple of years now. Time on the water.
Yeah, that's what it becomes. Yeah. That's what it becomes. So I mean, it's knowledge is power.
Yeah.
It has been. It always has been. That's why for me, I always told myself, and as anglers, people should all tell yourself this too. If you can't learn something new every time you go fishing, you're not looking hard.
You might as well quit.
You're not looking hard enough. Because I learn something all the time. I get spanked all the time by myself.
Yeah, I learn the most when I do the worst. Like in a tournament.
When it's tough, because you're thinking twice as hard to catch that fish.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that you have to in a lot of these lakes you got to finesse and you got to drop shot. Lake Paris probably has one of the best crankbait lakes. That's probably one of the best crankbait lakes in Southern California. A lot of people don't do it because they don't see anybody else doing it. They've seen everybody else drop shot.
It's amazing. When that thing was peaking, when it was putting out all the world records, the guy that had, at one time, I think he had all 6, Gil Rowe, I don't know if you remember, but Gil used to fish with me with my San Bernardino group.
Okay.
And Gil would invite me to come down there. Now, what's amazing? He caught all those world records from shore, walking the shore. From 2 pound to 16 pound, he had every IGFA record for spotties out of Paris, and he caught them from shore. And he kept telling Danny, "Come on down, they're biting." I said, "I would." I regret it now, but the Paris went off the same time as Castaic and Casitas.
Yeah.
So it was tough because I was chasing the big Floridas.
Yeah. It's interesting at Paris because Paris had spotted bass and they don't have them now. You never catch a spotted bass there now, which is really, really strange. So I remember throwing a green Smitty's worm and catching the spotted bass years ago.
I got them in the off season when you go down there, we're goofing around, after we're fishing, done with the big fish. But I missed my opportunity, and I kicked myself for that because Gil's just such a great fisherman. And he fished with me on the Mustang too.
Okay.
So and what we're going to find too, you'll find that similarly. He was a great saltwater fisherman. Mm-hmm. He's a great fly fisherman. Yeah. So, there's things that, absolutely. I mean, I implement stuff from fly fishing in my head. There's a lot of stuff I don't mention, but there's things that come back to haunt me. We're talking about these big arapaima down in Guyana, right? And Steve at Tommy tells me, bring a fly rod. I'm going, you got rocks in your head. You kidding? A 300-pound fish, I'm going to bring a fly, and I have the fly rods for it, the 14 weights and stuff.
Yeah.
I get down there with Pete, Demers, and Pete and I are pounding the water because we're very competitive. The problem is they have these very sensitive ear bones. Mm-hmm. So if you hit the water more than 3 times with these big baits, they sink out.
Wow.
These big mega bass baits that, we're using, right? But it's too much sound. They sink out. They won't come up for another 40 minutes because they're air breathers. Okay. And at that point, I go, why didn't I listen to Steve? Because you could lay that fly line down and strip it. And in these lakes, when there are impoundments that you carry the boat into over a levee, from the main river. But what happens is there's toolies on the side. There's also caiman in there too. But you got 2 guides on the boat and there's 2 guys fishing. And so what happens when you hook these things, and this one I had was about, we figured, close to 280.
Yeah.
Okay. It starts going through the weeds. One of the guides will jump in, get in between, and the fish will swim out. So it gets it out, and it's only 6 feet deep in these
What's
areas.
A caiman?
4 to 6.
What is that?
It's a South American alligator or crocodile.
Okay. Because I kept hearing that. I kept hearing him say that.
Yeah,
You know, Rick talking about that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's weird because those guides down there, they go in the water. They're all over down there. But apparently, you know, they know what they're doing. You won't catch. Yeah, I went in there only because they were standing on both sides of me when we're taking the picture, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going, oh, yeah, there's Cayman.
Hey, boys, I'm just going to catch you up here a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Dan Smith says he met you, Todd, at one of the shows. You were showing him the Simrad setup. He says, good man. What a good man.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
There you are, man.
That's
He
awesome.
loves you.
Oh, yeah, let's take care of I'm sorry, folks.
That's
I
all right.
apologize.
Keep going, man.
Big mouth.
What you got for us? What you got for us?
Yeah,
Ron
let's go.
says he worked at Canyon Lake as a deputy and met many of the folks you guys are talking about, and he didn't even really realize it. Mario and Todd Woods is also a captain, fire captain, retired.
Wow.
He says his best.
There you go.
Thank you. It's been good.
Daniel Leanos is just jumping on. Rob S., he said he used to go to Walnut Creek. He'd take bacon with him. Then he'd make bacon and eggs. No. Then he'd fish for crawdads. I want the bacon and eggs. Screw the crawdads.
Yeah.
And he said then he'd go to Pudding Stone and kill the bass.
Yeah, I have a lot of history at Pudding Stone. When I was young, my parents used to drop me and a guy by the name of Mark Williams. They'd drop us off at the lake, and then they'd come back and pick us up at 4:30.
Oh, man, how cool is that?
Yeah. I use hot dogs instead of bacon.
There you go. I'd say the bacon. Yeah. And Alan says he just hit the like button. He's enjoying the show tonight. So carry on, gentlemen.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're also going to talk about co-fishing and tournaments.
No, let Todd jump in here. I mean,
keep going.
No, we're doing great.
Cool.
Yeah. No, again, that tournament that Kyle won, it is a pro-co setup. And a lot of people ask a lot of questions about that because if you're just getting into bass fishing, the AAA program is for you, you know, and it's not you, but for, you know, our audience.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm trying to get my buddy Phil over here to sign up as a AAA because it is a shared weight format. And I remember fishing one bass tournaments in the late 80s, I think it wasn't shared weight. It was pro on pro. You had to catch your own fish when you were in the back of the boat. And it was rough because I remember drawing a guy, hopefully his name will pop in my head eventually, but I fished with Larry Nixon. You know who Larry Nixon is? Yeah. And Larry just retired from the bass fishing world. He just retired a couple days ago, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
And I taught Larry how to split shot. You know?
Well, you know what? Those guys back east, and you know, it was pretty much one way to fish on a lot of stuff. And you got to know, coming from the West, that your repertoire was much larger.
Oh, for
all
sure.
Those guys, because you're fishing lighter lines.
Yeah.
You can, when it's tough. Think about when Aaron first went back, and these guys started fishing the light lines.
Yeah,
and they're not used.
test.
Light line for them was 15.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it's tough, we know how to fish all that stuff.
No, you're right.
We're dangerous. Yeah.
But they've adapted so much.
Yeah.
I think mostly because of the social media world, you know, and it's amazing how many tournaments are won from a guy in Texas with a Ned rig or a shaky head, you know, or I mean, it really is crazy nowadays. And back in that day, they'd be like, you know, they called spinning rods fairy wands.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not fishing with no fairy wand. Well, now a lot of these, especially fall tournaments, you'll see 6 or 7 of them on the deck of the front of the guy's boat, and the guys from you know, Texas or Alabama or Arkansas.
Yeah.
But you would never see that.
Right.
All you see is 4 spinner baits or a crankbait on the boat. You know,
I mean, they're used to throwing 1 ounce jigs and stuff like that. I mean, right? I mean,
absolutely.
no, it's changed.
Yeah.
It's changed, but
definitely.
you know, I honestly think the finesse fishing, you know, that came from out here, you know, and when kids like Aaron, you know, when they first initially going back there competing, you know, it did a number on them.
Oh, yeah.
God, I remember I had to put Carol Martins on my pro staff because
I remember,
Aaron was too young to drive to the show. You know, so, but you know, a lot of that came from utilizing lighter tackle. I mean, he helped Blaze, you know, on the tournament scene. I helped sell a lot of G Loomises for me, and I got him, you know, initially tied up with Toyo Shimano, and so we were blessed to be around a lot of great. You know,
but the other end of that spectrum, you know, who discovered, or should I say, invented flipping?
D, wasn't it?
D. Thomas.
Yeah.
From Northern California.
Tell them how long those rods were initially. That it changed the limit on the length.
Yeah, they were
right?
10 feet.
Yeah.
You know, and then they limited him because he was kicking everybody's butt.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's started flipping. A lot of guys, and I'll be in a boat. I'll be at a WON bass tournament. And they'll be in the guy boat. I'll say, "Hey, do you know who D. Thomas is?" They'll go, "No, I never heard of him."
Oh yeah, no. Well, we've been around. Yeah.
know.
We called them on the saltwater boats. We called them lip balls. With
Okay.
elbow grip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they called them tule dipping.
Yeah.
Tule dipping.
Yes.
No. Because they use them for bluegill.
Wasn't that what put the limit on the length of the rod?
Yes. Because they take them and they dip them way back in the back.
D would in the front seat. You never have a shot.
No, you didn't have a. They're like, what is this guy doing? He won a lot of tournaments.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of that innovation,
right?
Came out
exactly.
of here.
It's kind of a shocker when you think of flipping. You think somebody in Arkansas or Alabama would have invented it, but no. We've. Japanese, a lot of the Japanese baits, the original Nico rig, that came from Japan. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah,
I'll tell you. Have you been into a Japanese tackle shop?
No, I've seen.
Stay out.
Pictures. I know.
You mortgaged the house.
Yeah.
My wife, she would have killed me. I had money stashed away.
Yeah.
But I went in there and bought stuff. Had no idea what it was, and I go, that just looks cool.
Right. And you know what the craze is in Japan right now, and I'm going to say you're probably going to hear this first right here. Is big baits. They went finesse. Now they're going completely the opposite. They're using these big giant baits now, and that you're going to see that.
Well,
got a lot of guys.
They got Lake Biwa,
right?
And they kicked out that big monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's good reason for that.
Yeah.
Now. But where
they're
they
going
started
the other way.
They started here.
Right. Finesse. Yes, and finesse fishing. Yeah. Yeah.
But it comes out of our I give our credit to our anglers.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's so competitive.
Yeah.
And we're all looking for edges.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you got any more questions for us, Phil?
Daniel Liano says he used to fish Paris in Riverside. Says there's some awfully big cats there. He loves that.
Yeah.
Scott asked more about the co. How does he do that?
That's a great question.
Get in on that?
So really, what you want to do is
and do you have to be a really good fisherman?
You do not. In fact,
that's why I qualify.
Yeah, that's
Don't rub it in.
we think about you when we think about.
Thanks,
No, we know you. You're that quiet, silent assassin. But no, actually, to become a co-angler, all you have to do is pay the entry. But the key is you got to pay it early because a lot of times what happens is we'll get an influx of AAA co-anglers, and so what'll happen is you'll miss the boat, pun intended, if you don't sign up early. So you want to sign up as early as possible. The nice thing about it is it's cheaper than signing up as a pro. I think like the entry fees, I should have looked it up before I came. I think it's like $400 versus the $1,000 for the pro. And the prize, obviously the prize is different. But no, all you have to do is sign up, and you come by Anglers Marine. We'll set you up with the tackle that you need, the rods that you need. I mean, one thing nice about being a co-angler is it's like a team tournament. So a guy, as long as you have a little bit of fishing skills, if there's certain things that you're good at, you definitely your pro will encourage you to do that unless you're doing something way off in left field. But no, it's a great experience. And there's been guys that have won a lot of money as a co-angler and they never caught a fish. It's because it's a shared weight format, meaning that if your pro catches 10 pounds and you catch 0, then you get the 10 pounds. If you catch 10 pounds and your pro catches 0, he gets the 10 pounds. It's a shared weight, which is great. Now, you fish with someone different every day, which is nice. It's like having a guide trip every single day, and a guide trip's nowadays anywhere from $300 to $600 a day. So you're getting, for $400, you're getting 3 days of fishing with a pro. Now, unfortunately, you can't pick the pro that you want to fish with. It's a random draw, so you might get a guy that's consistently on the bottom of the barrel, but you also sometimes you'll get a guy that's consistently on the top of the barrel. So it's, and if you're a good co-angler, you really, really help your pro catch bigger and better fish. You know, so there's that.
Yeah, see, I'm unaware of all that.
Yeah, it's all
never
new from
fished
what.
tournaments. Yeah,
Yeah, because it used to be pro on pro back in the day when I first started tournament fishing, and it's very very. There's a lot more camaraderie in it. You know, you build relationships from it because when you're fishing either pro on pro or you're fishing against the guy, you don't really want him to catch your fish.
Yeah.
They're not your
Yeah.
fish, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, you'll keep the boat, you know,
Yeah,
to where he
you're gonna-
can't cast.
you're gonna
But not
front
when
seat
you're
him.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're team tournament, you're like,
Yeah.
hey, cast over here, I'll cast over here.
Yeah,
You
get the
know?
coverage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, and I mean, I remember a guy, the late Pat Donahoe, when his co's would get in the boat, if he didn't feel like they were equipped with the right equipment, he would give them the right equipment, including rods and reels and everything.
Use this. Huh?
Yeah, you know, here, use
yeah.
this. You know, if you're lying, you
that's
take
awesome.
what kind of knot are you tying? You know, I'll tie your knot for you if I have to. You know, because you break off a 5-pound fish in the back of the boat, that's money.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
pounds is money.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I can remember. I mean, that was, and you bring a facet in that's so important. But we used to go to Russ. I used to go to Russ Isaac anytime we had a new knot, and I put every knot on the machine.
Yeah.
And we tested it. You know, we did the brake test on them all. So I
Yeah.
mean, that was a big part of it. You know, one of the things I don't know if you knew, but I learned a lot. There's some of the stuff I learned from Doug Hannon. And I would talk to Doug. I'd call Doug, yeah. And one of the things was camouflaging the line back in those days. And it was simply taking, I was using XT because it had less stretch. So when you're setting the hook on the line, you know, with the crawdad, it come right out. And you could feel that tick, you know, it's sticking in the mouth, you know, in the jaw. And I literally went in the pool. Doug told me this. Go in and I could, with a mask, I could see the light transfer down the line.
Yeah, like it's a fiber optic.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you took the green marks a lot and did 3 inches of green, skip 3, and I pinched the line. I take the hook, put it back in the reel, pinch it together. So I essentially would mark about 10 feet of line. Do, 3 inches of green, 3 clear, 3 green, clear. Put it in the water and it disappeared. It broke down. You didn't see that beam of light coming down.
Did you ever try a different color like black?
No, I didn't.
Because I was told it does the same thing.
Yeah, it probably would.
Yeah,
I probably would.
Of course, now it's
I stayed with green because that was what Doug told me. Doug told me at the time.
I'm sure he probably tried it.
Yeah.
You know. I want to give a shout out real quick to One Bass, Western Outdoor News.
Yeah.
They're the ones that do the shared weight. And on the 28th, I think it's 6 o'clock, on the 28th of this month, they're going to make a huge announcement about a huge, I don't know if it's a change or something that they're adding, but on the 28th of this month at 6 o'clock, and you can go on the Western Outdoor News website or Facebook, and Billy Egan's going to do a big announcement. So I wanted to give that shout out. And then the other is the New Gen Bass Tournament. They're New Gen and Billy Egan's One Bass Tournaments. They're the only 2 organizations that do that shared weight.
Oh,
a lot of the other organizations, you're competing against the other.
That's
the other
amazing.
guy.
Keeping in the loop, Phil.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea the difference. To be honest, Todd, because I never tournament fished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Danny, you said if you're not learning something new every day,
Yeah,
well, see,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. There's nothing better. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, do you, I know you know Bruce Smith. Do you know Bruce Smith?
Oh, yeah.
He used to own the boat Fortune. He's a big bass guy. So
Okay.
Scott wanted to know
Yeah.
if you knew that. What's your favorite lake, guys? Both of you guys. In Southern California, let's say.
Go ahead, Todd. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Southern California, I would say Lake Paris. And then if I expand out, I'm a Lake Havasu. I love Lake Havasu. I've won a couple boats there. Clear Lake, Northern California, or Central California would be the lake on that.
How about you, Danny?
Well, I'm going to go by. I mean, I had some huge limits down at Vail, but I mean, Castaic, I kicked out my big fish. Casitas in its heyday, and it was very competitive back in the we were there when it was so popular. Forrest Wood came out one time, and he was fishing with a good friend, Jerry Gibbs from Outdoor Life magazine.
Oh wow!
And later on, Jerry and we became real good friends. He used to stay at my house, and he was a true gentleman of the fishing world.
I met him a couple times.
Yeah, there was no better, I'll tell you. But having that blessing to fish around in different lakes, like to go up to Shasta and do different. It was a blast. It was just home was. my local
Sure.
fish.
Yeah.
I started out at Kachuma and, started out tournament style fishing. I could have very well gone that route in the early day too, you know. But, when coming from the sport boat, finding out and figuring out that there was current on some of these lakes, and that was being the main, factor in determining where these big fish were.
Yeah.
That gave us a little bit of an edge, and so we stayed with that. Of course, Castex got the current. You got lake being the water being pumped from Pyramid down and back up, and Casitas had it. I had a current there on most of the spots, and that's. I got to tell you, here's a secret. In both Castaic and both Casitas, there's spots where current comes in to a particular point, and it splits the current. And on each one of those spots, there's one at Casitas and there's one at Castaic. That's where most of the 20s came from.
Wow.
On both lakes. I
Yeah.
hooked one and dumped one with Corky Yokoi at Casitas. The same thing. The current was rushing down one side of the point, and then on the other, we actually had to make an adjustment to fish. And when it swept on the inside, that's when I got big on, and that was probably one of the biggest fish I've ever hooked. And I unbuttoned it. It came up to the surface. And Todd, you've probably seen it. What do? Should I back off as it starts to roll over, punch it a free spool, or just let the drag steadily take it out? Why I kept it in gear, drag was going out, and it just pulled the hook.
Wow.
That one is still a nightmare for me.
Yeah.
But, but that similarity on those lakes, when there's current, produce those 20s.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you fish mud lines at all, or not really?
Not too much.
Okay.
Not too much.
Aaron
No.
fished those a lot.
Yeah.
Omar says, the great Todd Woods and Captain Danny in the house. Wow. Can't wait to catch up on this one. It'll be archived for you folks here in just a little bit. What is your YouTube channel again?
Todd Woods Fishing.
And you want people to subscribe.
Yes, I need some subscribers real bad. I last time I was here, I gave some stuff away. I need to get to at least 200, and then when I come back, I'm gonna get. Actually, I did bring some what will we call these? Slightly used reels. I brought these for Michael. I wasn't sure. Is that right? I brought these for him.
That's so nice of you.
So and I want to take him fishing too. By the way.
Oh, he's such a great. He'll go nuts.
Oh
my
those
God,
are for
he'll
him.
be in
I brought
heaven.
him those. But
you are the man.
I'll bring
awesome.
him some stuff. Yeah.
And hit that like button here, but make sure you go to Todd's channel and subscribe. Rob says he wants a suggestion. He needs a rod for a Daiwa 100 XS Tatula. Any suggestions?
I would match it up with a Tatula a rod for sure. Medium heavy action, about a 6'10". Absolutely. And I'm not sponsored by Daiwa, but they make great products, and I would definitely match that rod up with that reel.
Have you ever fished as a co, Todd, yourself?
Actually, I fished as a co this year. As a matter of fact, I was. You got your. If that's a great question. I'll segue into to a little story. So this year in February, MLF, which is the big organization that you see on TV, they were having a tournament at Havasu, and I had kind of committed to fishing one bass tournaments, so I wasn't going to fish the MLF circuit, but I really wanted to go to Havasu during that time because I fish it very well in February, and so I decided to drive up to Havasu, and it just so happens that I know the tournament director for MLF for that Havasu tournament, and I was literally driving up. I think it was a day or two before the tournament, and I love fishing so much. I just wanted to be around the guys, And so anyway, so I started thinking about it because sometimes they need an observer. Like if the numbers are uneven, more pros than co's, then they'll put an observer on the boat. And what that observer does, he basically observes the pro to make sure he doesn't do anything, above board or below board, however you want to put it. And so I called the tournament director, Alan Grant. I said, "Hey, Alan, I was just calling to see if you guys need an observer. I would be more than happy to jump in a boat with somebody. Plus, it'd be a free guide trip, jumping in a boat with a guy." And he goes, we're like 7 or 8 short on the co-anglers. And I'm like, okay. I go, so you want me to fish as a co is what you're saying? And he goes, yeah, if we need co's. I'm like, okay, well, let me call my wife. And so I hung up with him. I called my wife and I said, hey, they need some co's. Right away, my wife's like, did you plan that? I'm like, no, I'm serious. I thought maybe they might need an observer. So I called them and they told me they needed co's. And she basically supported me 100%. She says, go ahead. If you want to fish as a co, go ahead. She goes, are you sure you can do that? Because I can be a leader. Like you said, I was a captain for 15 years. I can be a leader and I can be a follower.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, it'd be fun. It's only, I think it was $400 or something like that. Yeah, I'll do it. So I call up and yeah, well, I'm in, get me in. So get there the night before the tournament and sign up, and they sign me up with a Japanese angler that barely spoke English. He's actually an Anglers Marine Pro staffer, Katama Kazuki, I think his name is. And so he had an interpreter. Because you have to share information of where you're going to meet and everything. And the first thing his interpreter says to me is, "Why are you fishing as a co-angler?" Because he knows I fish normally as a pro. And I go, they needed co-anglers, so I decided to come up and go. And so anyway, so the first day we go out, and he says he's going to be finesse fishing, fishing with worms and everything. Well, I like to throw swim baits. That's my deal. Not the big ones, but the little 5 and 6 inch swim baits.
Yeah.
Bass Tricks swim baits. And and so I figure, well, if he's going to finesse fish, I'll just kind of fish behind him. And we pull up to a spot, and he's finesse fishing. And this is another one of those deals where you talk about making observations of things that happen on the water, okay? He's finesse fishing on the bank, and I look over in the back of the cove, and there's fish chasing bait. I could see bait checking, and I'm like, hey, he goes, striper. And I'm like, okay, I know this lake pretty well. There probably are stripers, but they're probably smallmouth and largemouth bass in there too, chasing bait. That's what they do. They swim together. Anyway, I caught a striper in that spot, but by the time we got there, they had stopped. They had stopped eating the bait, and so I'm like, I'm a co-angler. I just got to do whatever I need to do, and I didn't catch anything in that cove. So, but he says, hey, if you have any spots when we go up the lake or down the lake, you point them out for me. I'm like, okay. And so we're going, and I'm like, he pulls into a spot that I was familiar with, and he's fishing. I think he's fishing a swim bait, but he's fishing it fast. And it was wintertime. The water temperature was in the high 50s. It wasn't even 60 degrees. Yeah. So if you're going to fish a swim bait, you got to fish slow. And so he's fishing a swim bait, and he gets a bite in his cove, and he misses the fish. And I'm like, okay, so he keeps working in the cove, He gets past where he got the bite. I throw my swim bait out there. I got one. And I catch a fish. He's like, you caught my fish. You caught that fish. And I'm like, yeah, I did.
You're fishing too fast.
Yeah. And so anyway, long story short, I caught 5 fish with him. He caught 1, and I was leading the tournament. I had like
that's awesome.
14 or 15 pounds first day.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. That's awesome.
Long story even shorter, I ended up winning the tournament. I won a boat fishing as a co-angler.
That's awesome.
Boat. So,
that is awesome.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. I have fished as a co-angler a couple times.
I guess. Wins a boat, yeah.
Yeah. What else you got?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true, But yeah, I mean, come on. I don't care if you're a backseater. If you got the experience,
yeah,
who are you listening to?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And I mean, my wife was really happy about that one.
That's awesome.
Worked out really good. And that's how I ended up at Table Rock, because that was the only one I fished. And then if you're in the top 25, or if you won any of the 3 tournaments, you get an invitation to fish the championship in Table Rock, Missouri, which I didn't know because I didn't read the rules. I wasn't planning on it. I got an email that said, hey, congratulations, you're in on it. Yeah, and I went, okay. And actually I ended up getting kind of a bad draw the second day, but the first day I was in 12th place as a co-angler.
Unreal.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And we didn't catch much the second day, but Yeah. So yeah, I highly recommend the co-angler thing or the AAA thing.
I think I can do that.
Yeah.
Especially if Todd
that's-
catches 10 pounds.
Hey.
I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. I'll tell Billy to make sure he pairs us up together. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me know next time you need a novice.
Yeah.
know?
Exactly.
Let's go, Danny.
Yeah. So, what else you got?
Well, we've got some incredible bluefin tuna fishing as we bump up here against November.
Is that amazing?
What do you think about that? And Todd,
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
you're kind of you like.
I love ocean fishing. Can I get on one of these trips? I'm only good for a day though. Are they getting them a day in a day's range?
Probably Dana. You know, probably want to have with the bluefin at least a day and a half where you get a day and a night shot.
Yeah.
You know, and it's where this bluefin fishing can be so exhausting because like I did 5 days and we fished day and night. I mean, we were lucky to get I mean, if you're as stupid as I am when it comes to fishing, I'm up all fishing the whole time.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm the same
I'm
way.
just crazy.
I don't
you know,
sleep. Yeah.
but you know, and I was just built that way. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, your opportunity on that fish is just as good at night. You know, doing the deep drops and.
I'd
You
love
know,
to catch one at
yeah.
night. I've never done that
it's,
before.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
It's a blast. It's a blast.
Yeah.
And during the day, you usually drop down in line size because you know they can see the line better. You drop down lighter. You may not catch the. Typically, that night fishing fish is where you're going to get your bigger ones. Not always, but typically, you know.
I caught a 27-pounder this year, yellowfin, on 17-pound tun.
Oh, that's a heck of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a heck
30
of a deal.
minutes to get that thing.
Yeah. That's a blast.
Yeah.
That's a blast.
That was fun.
Mission Bell?
Yeah, on the Mission Bell. Yeah. Yeah, which was a great
awesome.
trip.
Yeah.
I've caught a few Dorado this year, a few bluefin, and I have a buddy. I think the last time we talked, I still don't know what he calls his charter, but Mike Lillibridge and Mike Pua, they have a charter, a local charter. They live in the Riverside area, and they've been taking people out. They just got their captain's license. In fact, one of my YouTube videos that I just put out was with Mike and Mike. From last year, the bluefin that we caught. We caught a 150 pounder, several in the 90 and above, and the 100
nice
pound.
units.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
really.
Those are great units. You know, one thing I got to tell you, I'll sit down sometimes on a Saturday or Sunday morning and I'll watch tournament stuff, you know, and I watch. And I get a little bit upset because I watch these guys that are pros
Mm-hmm.
and I watch their techniques and they're high sticking and they're doing stuff. I don't think they're ever educated on where they're getting the power curve out of those rods.
Definitely.
And I'm watching them high stick. And you know, by doing that, you're getting these fish, you're almost daring them to jump out of the water. Well, that's where they're going to throw the hook.
Yeah.
I mean, when I learned bass fishing, it was keeping it down to keep them in the water so they don't get their head out and
exactly.
throw the hook. You know? But the other part is by keeping it down lower,
you got the power.
You got the power.
Yeah, no.
You know,
I think they're used to seeing other people doing it, and they just kind of, you know.
Yeah, and I'm watching them on TV, you know, and fishing the tournaments. I just want to.
They break a lot of rods,
you know,
too. They break a lot of
rods. Well, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
As a rod manufacturer, when I was with Loomis, you know, I was fishing all straight graphite scrim rods. I never broke one, but we knew how to pull.
Right.
We know how to pull, and that's one thing I didn't see out of a lot of these guys. Yeah, okay, they're getting the tackle, you know, they're getting the rods and reel space, but don't show these people the wrong way to fish.
Right.
It takes me out, you know, that they're not, if they're pulling at those lower, you know, angles, you're getting 10 times the pressure on the fish, number one.
Yeah.
So, you know, they never get a chance to get their head to jump. And you know, obviously, if they are starting to come up, like always drop the rod tip down, you know, keep them in from jumping. But, yeah, it's some of the stuff I just shake my head. I go, come on. You should be showing the angler, you know, these people that are watching TV, you know, especially at that level.
Yeah.
But I watch so many of them. I'm watching them fish, and I go, God, I just want to, come on, learn how to fish.
Yeah.
You know?
No, totally.
Yeah. So, but that's what's nice about having the crossover fishing, especially in California, because you get the best of everything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you learn from each, and I've always said, all facets of fishing, when you put them together, if you can derive anything beneficial from any aspect of it, that's a huge plus. In any, whether it's fly fishing, I've been able to cross over and all those sports, and there's times and places for all those methods.
Yeah.
Oh, and they become more effective.
Now you've done it, Danny, because Blue Sky says, all right, Danny, can you do a rail rod demo right now? Can you do it or
Yeah,
not?
sure. It's easy.
What are you going to do with the
It's easy.
one of
We'll
your
just grab one of the
blanks,
blanks. Yeah.
or I can grab a
Okay.
rod out, whatever you want to
Yeah,
do.
we'll just do it. You know, all you got to do is look at the angle. Let me grab a shorter one here because we're not going to be pulling the pressure on it. But, okay.
This is good
Rail
stuff.
rod demo.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Is this going to be the rail, or how are we going to
Yeah,
do the rail?
you know, well, this is a little high, but we'll use this as a rail. But anyway, yeah, we'll use that. It's lower. You'll be able to see it better. Okay. So, folks, many years ago, we at G. Loomis, we quantified the lifting power at different angles. Okay. And we did this with a 30-pound rod. So what it was we had the butt section hooked up to a forklift where it would pull it straight up. So at, say, 30 degrees here, okay, this 30-pound rod broke at 62 pounds of pressure, which is, that's unheard of for a 30-pound straight graphite rod, okay? So obviously when you're pointing it straight down at the fish, you're getting almost 100% of the pressure on it. But by keeping this angle down at this angle here with the tuna, Phil, you saw it. I did it on that whole trip when we fished with all the captains on the Freedom that one trip, but it was always on the rail, but it was always below 90 degrees. Now, if you come up to 45 degrees, you go from 62 pounds of pressure to 45 pounds of pressure. You come up to 90, you now have 30, okay? As you go up, to 120 degrees, it drops off to 12 point and change pounds of pressure. So, you're talking 1/6 the pressure that you're getting down here, as you high stick, and this is where you're going to blow up rods, people, because you're high sticking, you're getting 1/10 the pressure you are having it down at 30 degrees. Why in the world would you have a chance of breaking that rod, putting a 100% chance of breaking a rod at a high stick and get only 10% of the pressure? It's dumb. And I see people doing that daily, not just the bass guys, but I see the tuna guys doing that too. So by learning and understanding the proper angles, that's where your efficiency levels come in.
Yeah.
And Todd, even in bass,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pulling on them. If the fish jumping, I'm dropping my tip down in the water, changing angles. But I'm never here. Never. It's always out here. And I look back, and fortunately, in some of the shows I've done, like with the Linders and the In-Fishermen and stuff like that, that's one thing that they said, wow, you're pulling a lot different. I said, yeah, but that's because we quantified it when I was with Gary Loomis. We quantified the pressures corresponding with the angles, and fishing straight graphite, you have to be a lot touchier because there's no fiberglass scrim giving any give, for a high stick. You can fish a fiberglass rod at a high stick, but you're getting like 1/10 the pressure out of that rod that you are with graphite. So when you're properly implementing it, you put a fish on a lot quicker. And that's why even with bass fishing the big fish that we're fishing, the trophy fish, a lot of them didn't take that much time.
Yeah.
What
about a long, like, do you want a long rod or do you want a shorter rod when you're tuna fishing?
I'm fishing a lot of 8-footers.
Okay.
I'm fishing a lot of 8-footers because I'm short too. So, it's giving me the cast. I'm getting my cast for getting bit. I'm getting a longer cast for fish. But when you have it on the rod, when you have a long rod on the rail, you're not fighting it like, if you're up above 90 degrees, you're going to get that pressure, and the fish is going to get the edge on the leverage because of the length of the rod.
Yeah.
So, by cutting the bend down, keeping it down, not only you're putting more pressure on it, there's less chance of breakage. There's so many advantages to keeping that rod level down low. But the problem is I see guys high sticking all the time, and I'm going, why would you teach them that? That's where you break rods. You're getting 1/10 the pressure, and I watch all the time on TV, and I'm watching these tournament guys, and I go, I'm just shaking my head. I go, I want to smack them. Hey, learn how to fish.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to fish.
Yeah.
If you're going to teach that, you have to have that understanding. I'm blessed to be around some great rod manufacturers from the old days with Leon. And then when I was first bass fishing, all we had were fiberglass rods. First bass fishing when I was in, high school. And when they started to bring in the graphites, I was blessed enough to be around Richard Hightower and Kurt Dills and those guys when Fenwick was down in Huntington Beach. So I was fishing all the HMGs and everything, and that got us into bass fishing and sensitivity fishing when you're worm fishing and everything else. And then not too long after that, Gary called me up, and brought me in to help, and I've helped design the saltwater graphites and stuff like that. But it's a learning thing. You have to teach yourself. But the efficiency. And Phil, you've seen it. We have it on film. There was a day that we had on the Freedom. They wouldn't eat the heavier line. They'd eat 30, and these are bigger fish.
Yeah.
So your odds already are down. But I mean, your only chance of landing them is fishing with the right angles.
Hey, Danny, somebody says out there, hey, you don't look short. You look taller than Todd right now.
Yeah, he's sitting on a chair.
Good stuff.
It wouldn't matter.
That was a great explanation.
Yeah. So no, that
was me saying that.
That's what
I'm looking for it.
I'm like, oh, shoot.
No. So it really is a very technical thing, people. And then we're very fortunate here in California, Southern Cal. We've always been on that technical edge, and that's what we push. And that's how when I fish, I need to, especially at my age, I want to take every advantage I can get.
Gary Loomis, is he still alive?
Yeah, he'll be here on the show in December. He's coming in, bringing the family down to Disneyland. So
great.
I'm going to bring him on. I'm going to bring him down here. I'm going to drag his behind.
I'll sit here for that show.
Yeah. Oh, he's a character. You're gonna wet your pants laughing at the stories we have on each other.
He's got a rod company too, right?
Yeah, he's now with Edge. Yeah,
is Edge? Are they going to be at the Fred Hall show in January?
Yeah, I think they do. They're selling direct. Yeah, I went up to the buy into the company, but we had some problems with partnership agreements and things like that. So I came back down, but he's still a very good friend. The family, we used to do family vacations back to Washington D.C. We did Gettysburg. Both families. So our kids and everybody's really close.
Yeah.
But I mean, we just had just a blast, and I can tell you one time. When he was very heavily involved in Loomis and stuff, he was at President Bush's house and he was going striper fishing with him. And I get a call, and we have this documented. It's in a magazine, and there's a show on it. And he's in President Bush's tackle box, kind of like my tackle box in the back of my house, it's a shed. And he asked me, do you have this one particular bait? I said, yeah, I had it somewhere. I'm looking, so I'm going back there digging through all these baits. And I mean, I had thousands of baits at the time. And I said, so what do you need this for? He says, well, I'm standing here with President Bush, and he's looking for this one bait. I go, yeah, right. He goes, no, really, I'm right here with President Bush. I go, yeah, right, Gary, get out. Because he was a prankster, Yeah. Well, here's an article with this picture of him in the shed, and
Wow.
So it's funny. He said, well, I'm going to have him tell that story too when he comes on with us. But yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Yeah.
It's really been a fun ride. Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, anything more?
No, what do you think? Todd, we can wrap it.
Yeah, we can wrap it.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Want to remind you guys to check out my channel, Todd Woods Fishing on YouTube, and also Todd Woods Fishing on Facebook, and just Todd Woods on. I think I've got a room for about 20 more people on my Facebook channel. But yeah, and like I said, I'll definitely probably give some stuff away once I get my subscriptions up there. But yeah.
Well, we'll have to just put you on a regular. We'll just plug you in on a regular basis.
I love talking
and you
fishing.
You know what? And I got to tell you, keeping that pulse on the bass fishing here too, that's important. I mean, because that was a big part of my life at one time.
I know.
Yeah. But to have you still doing it strong
still
and
plugging
coming
away.
in there, love to have it. We'll just make it a regular deal.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Anytime.
You got it, man. That sounds great. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I guess we're going to sign off, Phil. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.